Hello, it's Tamara Hunter, and today is day number 316 of 365 Days of Awesome. Celebrate success through service. And today we are fortunate that we have the only couple that made it into being honored in the top five of the next impactor. Yes, we have the Kieslings, Scott and Nancy. And you know what? They are fascinating. In fact, if you hear a little bit of wind, don't be alarmed because they are actually at their home. And their home is on a boat. I think it's so cool. The reason I'm highlighting them as service heroes today is because you know what? They're out there sharing an inspirational story, and you may not even realize how inspired I am. However, they will by their story of overcoming, persevering, and getting through, if you will, wink, wink, life, and finding a way to do it where then they are inspiring others to go out there and find their better selves. I am truly honored to represent and welcome Scott and Nancy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Tamara.
You know, let's just get right into it. Let's dive into it. And the obvious, if you will, it's not an elephant because it's just really exciting. But the obvious thing here is that we shared a stage in common just recently in August in Chicago at the Next Impactor. And it was a pretty amazing experience, wouldn't you say?
Oh my God, it really was. Yeah, that was, I think we all felt like we had a moment at the Golden Globes for ourselves, and we all got to get highlighted and get dressed up and have a good time. And yeah, we had a blast.
You guys, can you just say still the show when it comes to the couple category? Because when you two showed up, and let's just face it, you guys are an incredible couple in so many different ways. And when you showed up, and here you are at the beginning of the evening, the anticipation of the night, and you're wearing this amazing, beautiful tux, Scott, wink, wink, and Nancy, you were pretty amazingly dressed yourself. Why don't you talk about that? Because you actually, when I heard about some of this, I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Your home is on a boat. So It's not like you just can go to the closet and say, okay, what formal gown am I going to wear today? And then travel to where you're going to travel to then, dress up and be ready for an amazing evening. You actually traveled without even having your gown in place, right?
Well, I got it about a week before through Mary Ziola Vega. So thanks to her, I came together nicely. But
There was a bit of sewing on the boat.
Yeah, we had a last minute sewing dilemma, but it came together. But yeah, the dress takes up pretty much our entire kitchen and living room. So it was sewing on a table, and but yeah, we don't keep our occasional dress clothes on the boat. So it was a good week of prepping, going to our storage unit to get our that day's event the day prior, and that morning prior's outfit all together. So yeah, it's a little bit different. We don't, what we keep on the boat is very minimal. So we have a little separate storage unit that gets us dolled up.
Mostly shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, the usual attire.
On the boat.
So do you even put the shorts and flip-flops in the storage unit too? Is it that limited, or do you keep the shorts and flip-flops?
It's like living in New York City, It's like living in a small apartment where you swap out your winter with your summer and fall, and we just switch things out. So we don't have many seasons really where we live, right? It's either summer or winter.
Okay.
Basically. There's no real like fall.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of spring, but so we just swap back and forth, depending on the time of year.
Okay, so where is your boat housed? Where is it that you only have the 2 seasons?
So right now we're in a place called Isle of Hope, Georgia, which is just south of Savannah by about 12 miles.
Yeah, beautiful spot. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm curious. Do you guys stay in one area, or do you just kind of like meander up and down the coast when you decide that, okay, I'm ready for a change of scenery?
We did move around until my accident a year ago, and that's sort of prevented any of that right now. But now that I'm getting better, it's getting back into being able to sail and do different things.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, and then, but before we do, no, I'm going to go there because I think that this is a really important piece, because this kind of goes in on all of it. Oh yeah, we can see you a little better now. You were a little dark now.
Yeah.
No worries though. Oh wow, there you are. Look at those beautiful faces. So you talked about it, Scott, and you had, your background is such that you had an amazing career from really kind of your whole career, right, in a particular industry that a lot of people are going to say, wow, how exciting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so when I was young and in school, I'll give you a quick background. I basically cut out of a class. I grew up in a really big high school in New York, and we had to have identification cards. So in homeroom, they said, anybody in homeroom goes to the gym, get your picture taken. So I had the bright idea that we could cut out of a bunch of classes and we could sneak into the gym. So me and a few guys got caught in like one period. I mean, it didn't even last. And the guy that caught us was the student activities advisor and a social studies teacher in my school. And he brought us to his office and he gave us 2 choices. And he said, you can either give me 3 Saturdays in the theater, or I'm calling your fathers. For me, it was a simple choice, right? I mean, simple.
Yeah.
I'll give you 4 Saturdays. How about that? Let's put one in the bank. Let's put one in the bank and just, and that led to theater jobs. And then a mentor of mine said, hey, look, if you want to be a small fish in a big pond, you can stay in New York. If you want to be a big fish in a small pond, then come to North Carolina. And this was in the early 1990s. It was actually 1990 or 1991. And I had been working in New York and struggling. And he really, that sentence out of his mouth was like the doors of opportunity, right? It was like screaming. And with that, I started a 30-year career in the film and television industry. And I've worked with everybody from Steven Spielberg to, anybody, many people that you can think of. And I've had wonderful experiences, and I've traveled the world doing it. And I really saw how human behavior worked, right? Watching these great directors and these great actors and actresses and studying their craft, if you will. The human behavior that goes into a character is what we carry around with us, right? And so it sparked this fierce desire in me to find out why people were hiding behind all of these different things, and staying in that suffering of loneliness and despair, if you will, from not understanding just what their body and their brain were doing to the outcome of their life. And that really is what started me to really want to be past the film industry and do different things and produce our own movies and really help people to get out of that loneliness world.
Okay, this is even making that much more sense. So, and thank you for sharing this. And Nancy, we're going to bring you in here in a second. I just have one more follow-up question for Scott, if you don't mind, in regard to this. And I just want to recognize we have some of our friends here. We've got Mikey Adam Cohen,
Hey, Mikey.
of the top 25 of the Next Impactor, and of course on my board of advisors. Thank you so much for being here with us.
And an awesome photographer.
I know.
Oh, I know. I know. I feel so blessed because he's almost like a private photographer at times, even for myself.
Yeah.
And he's just been so amazing, and he's so tied into the music world. And this last weekend we just celebrated his birthday at the Oxnard Jazz Festival. Thank you very much, Oxnard Jazz Festival. Oh my gosh, it was a blast. And then we have Patrick Dickerson, Patrick is inspirational. Oh my gosh, Patrick, your story, we need to have you on here soon. You are just incredible, and he just did so much there at the event, at this hall that we had. He was a volunteer. He showed up early. He stayed late. He stayed way later than many of us. And when I heard his whole story, I was like, oh my golly. And who you? Yeah, who? Me? Yes, you. Mikey. You are very much appreciated and loved. All right, so Scott, you mentioned an accident when we started, and we're talking and saying that when I asked the question about moving the boat up and down, and do you check out different areas? Are you able to live wherever you want? And you said you were able to until you had an accident. Do you want to go into that just a little bit? Because isn't that a little bit of also now what's helped to shift some of your focus into what you two are doing together?
Yeah. So I did. I had an accident at work, and I lost some hearing and some other vestibular issues that I have, and it, what it does to somebody in their life when you attach to an idea of anything, right?
Right.
What that does to who we are, what we believe we are, what we tell people we are, what we tell ourselves we are, that can all be taken away in a split second. Right? Your idea of who you think you are, or what you think you're supposed to be doing. And what's important is to look at the outcome, the gift, if you will, of what's going on, and not the box it comes in, right? Not the package that we expected it to be delivered in, right? We all want the shiny, square, beautiful box that's wrapped perfectly and taped and got the perfect bow. And, I've never been that guy. And so with everything, my lessons were a little bit dirtier. They were a little bit more brown bag, if you will. There you go.
That's good.
And what it does to be able to look at the part of you that you lose, or that you think you've lost, when really I need to focus on who I found, right? And the lessons that I've received from it, and how I can share what it's like to have PTSD, what it's like to have a relationship through losing the identity of what I thought I was.
Right.
And it really is powerful. It's powerful to talk to people about it and share the experience that you don't have to stay stuck in what they say you have to be stuck in, right? And we've talked about this for a long time, is not being your circumstances or your labels. And I have to give a shout out because I love Christopher for this.
Yes. Yeah. Christopher, one of those that we shared the stage with, there with the other male there, the 6 of us, and Christopher, yes, autism to artism.
Yeah,
Such an inspiring young man.
And to not live the label that he's been given, right, is so impactful for everybody.
Absolutely. And you know, and thank you for sharing that, Scott, because it really sets us up. And I really did. It's like I was explaining to you before we went live, and is that this show really does help a lot of my buddies, Chemo Buddies for Life, and those people that are struggling through different things in their life. It might not even be cancer. It might be whatever it may be, because we all have life happening every day that we are here waking up to it. And we all handle it very differently. And the thing that we can be guaranteed in life is that it always will give us an opportunity to become our better selves through change. And we can look at it as an opportunity, or we can look at it as not. And you've chosen to look at it together as an opportunity. I really want to go and start asking you a few questions, Nancy, because it's fascinating to me about first of all, the two of you. Do you want to talk about, how did you two meet? Because I mean, it's a fascinating that you two are so. I mean, if there was ever a yin and a yang, if there was ever two people that I have now witnessed and been a part of and have an opportunity to, watch digitally and then see face to face just how you two interact, if there was ever a couple that I would want to emulate, it would be the two of you. And nothing in this world is ever perfect. However, by golly gee willikers, you guys are just pretty darn close. And I don't want to be giving you a title or anything, but it's encouraging. It's encouraging because you both, it's not like we immediately find that soulmate. We don't necessarily always have them in our world. We may be out there without them for a period of time, and then when we meet them, many say, hey, it could be really great for a period of time, but then how do you sustain it? And, so I would just love to know, first of all, how did the two of you meet?
Well, I'm glad I got this question because he always has the wrong answer.
Okay. We've the gauntlet's been put down there. Okay.
Right?
All right.
So my answer is really quick, right? She stalked me.
Yeah. So
I was stalked.
That's his whole shebang.
That's it.
But
Okay,
the real truth
Nancy.
is I was actually stalking Jennifer Aniston, who we all love, right?
Okay.
So he was working on a movie that she was on in the town that I worked at. And at the time, I worked in an office that was downtown, and they were filming in the busy street down below every day. So I would go down and get a coffee every day to go meander by and see if I could see her. And, I had to hang out for a little bit in the crowd. And then I kept bumping into this guy. And
convenient.
Yeah, conveniently later we found out. But yeah, we met through that. We hit it off immediately as far as friendship and chemistry. If you at the time you didn't really exactly know what that was. It was just like meeting someone you had known forever or you hadn't seen in a really long time. It was that kind of feeling. But I was recently out of a relationship, so I was very guarded, and just more or less he was just the type of person like, hey, want to get a drink, want to get dinner, just to chat and talk. And he just meant as a friend. But my guard was so high that everything was like, just so you know, I'm not looking for anything. And, he'd always be like, did I do something to make you think I was looking for something? So it was always this kind of comical friendship. And but it lasted. We were friends from the start, and we were friends for about 8 months until I actually realized it was something more for me, and I had to then bring it up to this guy that, wow, I actually find you kind of cute.
By the way, remember that, now let's change that way of thinking, I might be interested. Okay. All right.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, I was always looking for my soulmate from the time I was, 14 and had an interest in love. I always was looking for that person that was going to, I just had this romantic, hopeless heart, and I was always on the look, but I was constantly searching, and I'd meet people that I hit things off with and would think, okay, well, maybe I can, they're okay. They're almost it. We get it on really well. You try to fix other things. And I was looking outward rather than really looking inward. And it took until I did that, till we met, and we both had done that, like you said, we are yin and yang. We are very, very different upbringings, very different life circumstances, but exactly similar in how we do things and how we
our
love
approach to life.
Yeah, our approach to life is really similar. But I think it's because we had both done that work prior to meeting is what really made that connection.
Right, we complement each other, right? We don't complete each other.
Yeah.
And that was the most important thing, I think, in building this relationship.
I like that. You complement each other.
Yeah.
Complement instead of completing, because there's a lot of that I'm sure you run into as we go into this next part when we talk about what you are helping people with, and that is you probably do run into a lot of people, I'm sure, and it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship. It can be business partners. It can be family dynamics other than, husband and wife. It can be a lot of different dynamics that when someone feels a bit of a hole inside, they don't necessarily always go to that inward place to figure out how to fill that hole themselves. They do many times look outwardly, right? To fill that hole, that void. And in doing so, they're setting themselves up a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's when we go to the outside to fill that up, right? We find all of these different ways to fill it, right? And most of those ways don't fuel our life, right? They don't propel us in a good forward motion. Generally, we fill those spaces with things like alcohol or drugs or sex or running away and hiding, or there's so many.
It doesn't even have to be detrimental things. A lot of people do it even with things that seemingly seem positive, like they're addicted to working out, looking good,
right.
Their image, all these things, or enjoying, always being a part of something, never being alone. But it's because they can't be. There's that hole in there. So there's many ways that we fill it, but the bottom line comes down to if someone dropped you off in the middle of a desert, you have to be okay with who you're left with.
Right. Who you're left with at the end of the day, if that end of the day you were there on that desert island alone.
Exactly.
with a basketball, possibly.
Yes, right? So true.
And so, I agree with you, Mikey. Mikey said, wonderful story.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So now when you said, okay, folks, we're going to put our names into a contest, a challenge, a reality something. We're not sure exactly what it is because I don't know that any of us actually did in the very beginning. However, it has a big golden X attached to it. And we're going to do this. Now, how did that look for the two of you? Who approached you? How did you find out about it? And how did you, as a couple, determine that, yes, this would be something that you were willing to explore, not even really, because I know how much information that many of us had, which was not a lot. However, that's okay, because it was like, that's half of the fun of what we've been through for the last nearly year. And what did that look like for you?
Well, we came across it on Facebook. We were, we had known Lauren prior, and we saw it on one of his posts of some sort. And I think for me, the interest was the prize package, working with coaches that were established to where we wanted to go. We had done some work with previous coaches that have gotten us so far, and they were good in what we worked with. But I love the structure of that. I love following what others have done, even though I want to be the entrepreneur and build my own empire. I like following the wheel that's already made. So it was very interesting to me, the coaches that they had chosen, the lineup of what that could get you. And that was the drive for me to get involved. I had no idea what it was going to teach me along the way, that was soon going to be almost forgotten about in the process. And everything else was going to come forward and take precedence over the excitement of it. I ended up really enjoying every little bit of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting that of course, it came with purpose, right? It came at a time for me that I needed something to fill or help with the grieving of me, right? And to be taken out of what I do, to go through all the things that I was going through, it definitely stirred up some depression, right? And again, it's something that we can take and we can run with that, and we can stay attached to the idea of the loss of and the depression of and the oh woe is me and the pity party, if you will. Or you can see something for the opportunity of here's the gift within it, right? Here's something being handed to you that can help you do what you've been asking to do, right? And this circles back to that it didn't come in the pretty nice wrapped up box.
Right.
Right? I talk about all the time about listening to the whispers, right? And we had our whispers, and I didn't listen. And so how loud did it have to get? It got really loud. And then it came in a package that I didn't recognize from any dimension that I had visited in my meditations or on my the idea wall,
your
vision board, or right. It didn't look anything like any of that. This was something that I had never seen this packaging for me. And so it came along and it was like, oh, I can do this in front of a computer and mostly sitting on the couch and I'm not tied to anything. There's no, it didn't affect any of the things that I was going through except to open up the opportunity for seeing something besides depression.
And giving an angle to, we didn't we've been doing our adventure yoga retreats, which is physical. We didn't get into the online world of coaching in this aspect yet. So it opened up that door too, of understanding that and seeing that as a possibility and what that could bring to the table for how we love to live our life. I
want to read this. Patrick, L. Patrick both of the Patricks are here right now. I want to recognize we have Patrick Dickerson from the West Coast. We have L. Patrick Dickerson, and there's a whole story there with the Patrick Dickersons that I just learned recently that I think is really cool. But I fell in love with Walter, or with Scott Kiesling, at the Power of We in Atlanta. His energy and joy was amazing and engaging. And, I think that, you talk about, and I really am so glad we're able to do this today, because a lot of people talk about our amazing, wonderful, and indeed they should, Christopher Kaysen, because of everything who he was when he first decided to create a video, not knowing, anything, and then who he is now. We've seen such growth in him, and he gets a lot of comments in regards to that. But I have to say also, like L. Patrick Dickerson is saying, that when I learned the two of your stories, and Scott, when I heard even more about yours, and I didn't even quite get it until the next day after the event, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I truly was so inspired, completely, genuinely, to the core of me, inspired by you two even that much more. The two of you, knowing the story, and then how the two of you work together as a team, how the two of you are going out there to affect the world, how the two of you have the missions that you've chosen to have. But the story behind it was awe-inspiring to me. And so I completely agree with you all, Patrick. Okay. So Patrick Dickerson in San Diego.
He's the West Coast swim champion.
I just love the people that we hang with. And so, to go back to the entrance. Okay, so you decide to go ahead to say, okay, let's do this. Was it a big, well, I already know the answer to this, but I know some won't. But was it let me think about how to put this out there, and so that we can start a really good conversation about this. Not knowing everything that it was that we were facing, and what the challenges we'd be going into and going through, and how, it would be, we kind of had an idea. They said twists and turns, and then there would be, different phases, and at the end, yes, there would be a prize package, yet they kept it somewhat loose and open, just because of the fact that this is the first season, and they didn't want to limit the ability for us to be able to have this amazing, if you will, gamified reality streaming media show. And as you join, and I get you, Nancy, because that was the same reason that I decided to go ahead and put my name in there. It was, okay, yeah, prize package, that makes a lot of sense. And anybody that's watching this, it's funny, I still get asked almost every day. It's a prize package of resources to work with these coaches. It wasn't a prize package of money. It was valued at $500,000 in resources. And these are resources that are valid. I mean, I know, because I'm living it right now. These are real, concrete, real, amazing coaches that have tangible experience, and that you will be getting some type of results out of all the different categories that they specialize in. And they are coaching you through it. There's a lot of work involved. And I too, like you, Nancy, that was what the attraction was.
And congratulations on that.
Oh, I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I do appreciate that. And like we were talking before, the thing that I am so excited about is that it is a collaboration even now with the win. We are all the top 5 spots, 6 of us are all ambassadors. We are representing the Next Impactor Season 1. We are working with the coaches in many ways, many of us still, with the recognition that we're getting, the book that Coach Vicki is putting together, the generosity of those people that are involved with the Next Impactor. I had absolutely no clue that it would be as amazing as it is, and that's where I feel as though I am, again, like I am with my nonprofit. I am just the face. I am willing to do the work. However, it is much bigger than one winner. Many of us have been winners, and I think anybody that applies themselves that has been a part of Season 1 can be a winner too today.
Yes.
Going forward, and that's what I'm so excited about. So as we talk about, okay, so you join, you're one of a few couples, and we know why both of you were interested. Now the lessons and the growth and even your own personal twists and turns, you had a few of those, right?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the lives to start were, a hurdle, and still are. I admire all the individuals. We do most of our lives together. It's still a hurdle for me to go off and do a live by myself. I have to still put myself, get out of my head, go do it. People need to hear what you have to say, yada, yada. I am inspired by all the individuals out there that were just like, same thing, their first live, getting out there and doing it. That was a thing for us because we had never done it, and it's fun. But I enjoy it. We really enjoy the interaction you get with lives and what it's all about.
And the value we get to bring with, and thank you for putting that up.
Yes,
that we bring with our little Facebook show, Shoot the Shit, on Tuesday nights, right?
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I love the answer to this. However, I'm going to ask, how did you come up with the name?
Well, I guess it's a common term in my family. I'm not really sure. My sister kind of gave me the idea. I had written a post about life coaches. I had heard someone say a comment about, oh, geez, here comes another life coach or something. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, it's actually, I think it's great that it's becoming how big it is, because life coaching to me is what we used to have naturally in life. We used to sit around much more and shoot the shit with each other, and there weren't screens, there weren't texting, there were stories. And in my household, it was very common. It was very common to have a large group of family members, friends, different people always stopping in the house. And you had the entrepreneur, you had the business owner in the family, you had all the relationship talk, you had the married couples who were great, the one who got divorced, and all these stories would come about throughout life. So that was my answer to the person of like, well, I think life coaches, because they're bringing their experience to help you through something with whatever they're specializing in. So I think it's great. And I was explaining how we used to sit around the table and shoot the shit. And my sister said, maybe you should do that in at a coffee shop, or get some life coaches together with you and Scott and kind of do that, bring that back to the table, but in a business format. So we had just entered the competition. So we talked about it, and we're like, well, why don't we do both? And we'll do this online and do, especially once we found out you could do the pop-in thing and get people to pop in and just have a conversation, share their opinion. Everyone has something that happened that week that was, oh my God, my car broke down and you want to talk about it, or something.
Right. Or something that relates to
their relationship.
The relationship topic that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's not so structured that when we put out a topic, it's like, all right, this is all you can talk about.
Yeah.
we talk about anything.
Which is why I always start out saying structure is like a wall built out of Jell-O, because it's like you can just crumble it and we could start somewhere else if you want.
Right.
You know, it's open to what whoever's listening, what they need is what we really want it to be about in that moment. So that's really where Shoot the Shit came from. But my sister was the one who was like, you know what?
I love that. And when you were explaining the fact that, because I just had this vision, because you, Nancy, grew up in a family, correct? That, and you were talking about this, that it was just kind of like, you didn't even think anything of it because you thought everybody kind of lived like that, right? You just kind of like, yeah, come in, pull up a chair, do this. We all kind of like, okay, you got an opinion. What is your opinion? You know, and it's like, okay, you can expect that you're going to hear an opinion, and you're open to that. And not everybody lives in that kind of a home. Not everybody has that kind of an ability to say, hey, yeah, I'm open to hearing your point of view. In fact, I know a lot of folks that are like, did I ask you for your thoughts?
Yeah.
You know, kind of like looking down their nose, like, you know, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to hear that. And yeah, I grew up in that kind of a house too. It was like, okay, you know, the first time anybody pulled that attitude with me, it was like, what? Yeah. But Scott, how did you feel about this? You know, you said that you guys are yin and yang. So, you know, when you guys started doing these lives, in fact, it's really interesting because I came around a little later than some, and you guys had just started doing some of your lives, and I was watching, and I've seen such growth in the two of you. And I remember I think it was one of your first interviews on Bathrobe Moments after you had just started, and you're and Lauren's like trying to, like, I'm so proud of you guys. Like, good job. You did it. Keep going. You know, and it's like, and that was part of the endearingness, quite honestly, of this. I think I was even still looking at getting involved, and I loved that Rudy, that attitude of, you can do this. Get out of your comfort zone. You can make this happen. And going live, Scott, how was that for you in the very beginning? I mean, here you come from the movie industry.
Right, but behind the camera.
Right, I know that.
And so as much as I preached through, you know, I've taken hundreds of people out rock climbing and on different adventures, and as many times as I've talked about stepping out of people's comfort zones and talking people off ledges, here I found myself sort of on a little ledge. And, you know, the nice thing is to have the awareness.
That's great.
You know, the nice thing is to have the awareness that it comes up for me, right? That fear, I like to call it false evidence appearing real,
Right.
that fear comes up. And I want to know why, right? Where is the fear coming from? And why am I feeling it? And so when the lives came up, my biggest fear was, what will people think? Right? That was really my biggest fear. And my biggest pro, if you will, when I was thinking about it, is I have for a long time been believed in that talking saves lives. You know, we've only touched on a piece of my story, and,
right.
and I, you know, I've been in places where it was very dark, and there were suicidal things, and there were, you know, just bad things happening all over, right? And I lost my thought.
It's okay. We were talking about how getting through the live, going through the live, and then transition into this about, because I remember the very first time I heard that part of your story, Scott. I mean, I was in tears. I think it was a whole one of these I went through. You know, it's like, oh. You know, so.
And it really kind of came around for me because I've always been I've had coaches and mentors for a long time, and they've literally helped me my whole adult life. And one of the biggest lessons that I take from all of them is that talking saves lives.
Right.
And so when we talked about the idea of what we thought the show would be, or what we envisioned it to be, what we would like it to be, that for me was the biggest part that came up, right? So it was about overcoming that false evidence of people are not going to think I'm good enough, or whatever the story was that I was coming up with, and understand that me talking or someone else jumping on or Nancy talking could save somebody's life, could be the one little thing that on a Tuesday night literally stops somebody from having that next drink or taking that next pill, or
staying in a life that they're unhappy with. You know, I mean, there's such a wide gamut of saving your life. It can be as dark as suicidal thoughts, but it can be just as dark, but not ending your life, but just staying in a life that you're truly not happy with, but you're scared to do anything else. And so you stay there because you don't know what else to do, or you don't believe that you're good enough to do anything else because you've been told in subtle but not subtle ways your whole life that that's where you belong.
Or it's comfortable.
You know, and so there's all these reasons, but doing something outside your comfort zone is saving your own life. It's stepping it up. It's living your best life.
So your adventure therapy, the two of you, I mean, this amazing couple, you both have, I mean, you know, you come from different places, like you said, yin and yang, very different, and yet able to complement each other, not complete, but complement. Why don't we touch a bit, Scott, on what you're sharing, because I really do want people to understand the depth of where you two come from, because I mean, I will be honest, adventure therapy, that sounds like fun. I love the image, and, you know, going and you know, snorkeling or going and deep diving, or, you know, doing yoga and doing zip lining and everything. It sounds really great, but there's multi layers in everything it is that you guys are doing, because you have been so, if you will, deeply touched to the core, that you understand, not just because, and I don't want to say not just because, but I mean, here you had a significant accident that took, you know, it took at least for a period of time your identity as, you know, this professional in an industry that, hey, you were the big fish, you moved yourself to be the big fish in the small pond, in an industry that many just think it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And here you have an accident that you no longer can show up to the day job. You can't even then move the house down the you know, to that next pond if you wanted to, because right now you're healing from that. But there's much more to your story, isn't there?
Oh gosh, yeah. And the book will come out soon. There is a lot to it, and the adventure therapy part really came about again in saving my own life. Right? There were times in my life that were full of addictions and you know, all kinds of the troublesome things that you can imagine one getting into, and it was only to cover up showing anybody what I felt, right, what I had been through, and allowing for any of that feeling to come out. And again, through mentors and people that I chose to look at and say, wow, I want that, right? Whatever that guy has at that moment, that person, and it was many people, right? And part of that was an adventure person, adventure people who I looked at and said, there's something to this, right? There's something that they're getting. And it was selfish. There's something they're getting out there. And so I began to explore that. And through that exploration, I actually opened a rock climbing gym and decided that was something that really called to me to show people again that fear can be it's just fake, in the sense of there's danger, right? There's danger all the time, and there's a big difference between danger and the fear that we allow ourselves to tell ourselves that we're in. And what I mean by that is that you can take somebody, and I've worked with autistic kids in the whole spectrum. I've worked with gang task forces. I've worked with cancer patients. I've worked with people in wheelchairs. I've worked with all kinds of special needs, along with all of the other people that I've worked with and taken on rock climbing adventures. And what I learned was that through them conquering small individual fears along the way, with lessons that I had learned through my journey that I could now share with them in the woods, on a trail, on a ledge, that to see that light bulb, to see that glint come in, and then have them come back a week later, a day later, a month later, a year later, 5 years later, and in some cases 15 years later with their kids who are now in their 20s.
Wow.
And say to me, that's something we did on that trip, something we helped them to go through, to conquer within themselves, right? I didn't push anybody off a ledge. I didn't, they did the work. They changed their mindset, even if it was just in a moment that got them to go over that edge, right? And within that moment, then we now expand on that in the coaching realm that Nancy and I do. And we tie that physiology and that mindset in together, right? Because they've been connected for so long, whether it's in depression or denial or whatever it is, our body and our mind work together. And so if you only change the mindset, that's good and dandy until the body goes back into depression, fear, anxiety, whatever it is. It then drags the mind back into that cage. Where if we can tie them together and build on that moment, right? We build on that moment, and that moment can empower you then in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, right. So what I'm hearing, and see everyone why I'm so inspired, is that whatever it is, because we all have something, or we have multiple somethings, but life happens, and not always do we deal with those scary monsters that are under the bed, the opportunities that those monsters can create. That's why I love the movie.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I know, I love it too. I mean, a lot of times people always are getting that meme with the big monster, giving the hug, because I love it, because we let these monsters have the power. Yet in that story, it's like, oh yeah, really? Okay, they're just a big teddy bear. Interesting colored teddy bear and kind of thing, monster, and working at Monster Inc. and right, exactly, Neil Patrick, exactly, Monsters Inc. exactly, and the metaphors within it, it's just that's why all of a sudden, I have a little bit of a simple brain that I like to have some fun, and the thought here, as I look at your images, and as I pull this one where it's this beautiful location, and you're doing the breathing, you're doing the, the Cobra, I think is what you're in, and and it's all the different, experiencing the world and the opportunity, and I can only imagine what it is that you're doing through the mindset and as in the coaching environment in a setting like this. And each one of these people that I metaphorically, again, I'm thinking each one has come to that mat, their mat, with whatever life experience they are currently facing, that monster under the bed and that door that is represented, that shows up, and they choose to walk beyond that, to go outside of that environment, and then go with the two of you on an exploration. And in this case, it's an actual geographic trip that they get to go and face that FEAR, that fear, that monster that possibly isn't yet giving them a hug, and be able to work through it. So by the time that they go back to that room, maybe that monster decides to give them a hug, no longer scaring them any longer, right?
Yeah, and it really is about opening that closet door.
Yeah.
Right? It's about not sitting on the bed, staring at the closet, being in fear of what's inside of there. Right? Because 9 times out of 10, when we open it up, and I can tell you that this is true for me and everything that I've been through in my life. And again, we've only touched on a bit of it, but if you open the closet and you investigate each of those things that are in there and the meaning that you give them, we can really change that, which can change the rest of your life. Right. And with an experience like the Adventure Therapy Retreats, it's a very fast opening experience, right?
Yeah, it's an extremely fast transformation within yourself of things you notice, because it's constant. Like you said, it's throughout. It's from the moment you book your spot with us that the fears begin to kick in. Because there's some people who don't have a passport and they have to go through that part. They've never done that, and even those things. There's monsters there that oh my God, it's going to take forever. I won't get it in time. Or there's a lot of things that we come up with, and it's showing people along the way how often we come up with the idea of, and that we don't open the door to find out what really it is, and how easy it sometimes can be if you just take one step at a time. A lot of people look at the very end solution and go, oh, too big. When you break things down into baby steps, anything is possible to accomplish. So it's fun to show people that process, and really it's behaviors, it's coping mechanisms that everyone has developed throughout their life that aren't serving them well, that you regenerate into ones that do, and give them what they want in life instead of everything that they don't want, because that's what they're not seeing.
What's on my mind right now when you were talking, I'm a movieaholic, if you guys haven't figured it out yet. All of a sudden I'm thinking, what about Bob? Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. And he's got his little fish, and he's on and I'm thinking, okay, you guys have your sailboat right there. And I'm thinking,
yeah.
Bob.
Yeah.
He's
on a boat.
Baby steps, okay. And I'm thinking, this is like so perfect, because we need those baby steps. We need to be able to say, okay, baby steps, whatever that is. He's holding his little goldfish in his little, ball jar or whatever it is, around his neck. And it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And and it's like in the movie, all these characters that are like the they're all watching, and you've got the ones that are sympathetic and empathetic and then are rooting him on, and then the ones that are like, yeah, right, get out of my face, you're in my way, and the ones that you sometimes think are there for you to help you, might be the ones that are saying, hey, yeah, right, you're in my way, but yeah, come on in, I'll help you, and then yeah, go on. And we experience that in life. And when we can find people such as the two of you, people that you've been there and done that. I know we haven't gotten into all the stories because we'll have to have you guys back on, because I want to be able to highlight over the next year our adventures as being a part of the Next Impactor. And so that the thing I love about the Next Impactor as an organization now is that they are allowing us to go out there and like, if you will, go out there and fly, represent the brand well, do what you need to do, but let's, go out there and make a difference together, guys. Find a way to work together and win together and fly together and keep it simple and make a difference. And I'm thinking, yes, we're going to have you guys on. Oh, and speaking of, we've got Lauren Harris here. Lauren, we're talking about that.
Hey, Lauren.
The Next Impactor, and we're bragging about it because we absolutely believe in the format so much. And when we do have you back, we'll talk more about some of the stories that we were not able to really cover in this period of time, because there are. And it's like you said, Scott, and I concur with you in regards to what it is that my mission is, and that is, if we can save a life, if we can help a life to save that life, and then help that life to then thrive and find their way and find their why, and that fire in their belly to go out there and make a difference. And it will be a domino effect for change and good. And your adventure therapies allow for that, right? That's what it's all about. And that's why you decided to put your name into the contest, to say that, and I do want to cover this because I know we're kind of coming around to the end of the hour, but we just start at 5 after, guys, and I do that on purpose. And that is that you don't have to do it alone. Right?
Right.
That's part of your message.
Yeah. No, and so many people believe that it's not in the cards for them, or they've tried and failed and, I'm giving up, or they say, and maybe at that moment believe that it's easier to be alone, but it's easier to be alone because they're scared to show someone their true vulnerable selves.
Well, they're scared to show themselves their true vulnerable self.
Yeah.
In most cases,
they haven't even gotten there yet. But to open that up to someone else fully is frightening. So it's easier to be them by themselves, because then I don't have to face that. But they don't even realize a lot of times at that moment that that's a trigger behind there. But no, you don't have to go through any of it. And it's building friendships, it's building relationships, it's building the interpersonal connection that's getting lost today, because we are only doing this. A lot of people, this is all they have in life. They don't leave their screen. They don't leave their house. Hey, Jason. They don't leave the comfort of their home, because they're content with, or they feel like they're content with this. But interpersonal connection and human connection is so needed, and relationships are what take you to the next level in your life. Help each other. So that's a big part of what's behind what we want to do.
Yeah, and it's not about, and you touched on this earlier, it's not about partners in marriage or in this relationship, right? It's everything. It's with your kids, it's with your coworkers, it's with your friends, it's with your grocer, it's with everybody that you come in contact with, and it can simply start with a smile at somebody on the street. Right? It can be that simple. And it really can. And that alone can build relationships, right? We hear from a lot of people, I'm not good with people, or I'm this, we label ourselves in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And you can simply start like just sharing a smile with someone, right? And what that can transfer into in the ripple effect through your neighborhood, through your community, through your house, through your job place. It doesn't have to be a conversation. We like it to be,
yeah.
but it doesn't have to be. It can literally start with that smile, and watch how contagious that can be.
Or with a pizza dinner, right?
Or a pizza dinner. My goodness.
Dinner.
You know, and I bring that up as we start to wrap this up, is that I love what you're sharing, because basically it's what I talk about, that we all have a service hero inside of us. And in sharing that smile and opening that door and doing an act of kindness, you never know what that moment in time may actually, as you were talking a moment ago, Scott, it might actually help to take them off of the edge, get away from that edge and say, okay, I can make it another day. I can do this. Someone actually smiled at me. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's a reason that, maybe there's more to this world than what I'm currently think I'm experiencing. Because many of us, for whatever reason, life has given us an opportunity. I always say opportunity. Many don't agree. However, when they get on the other side, they do. And that is those darkness before dawn moments truly are life's opportunity for us to be able to find our better selves. And possibly in this, and the two of you, I think, are such a great example of this, in that when one person possibly smiles at another, that might be the dawn for that person's darkness that you just smiled at. You never know what this can be. And the two of you being able to share, and the yin and yang that I experience and watch when the two of you, I love the moments when something's been asked and then you two look at each other and there's a moment in time and I look for it. Oh, there it is. Oh, I love that. It's like, oh, be still my heart. Because you know what? That connection, and look at this smile, guys. I think it says it all. And look at the sparkles around it. Is that it can be a romantic situation, but it doesn't have to be. It's just like what we were talking about, Monsters, Inc. When we start to turn those monsters in the closet or under the bed or wherever they may be hiding and whatever they may be looking like, when we start realizing that they don't have to have a scary factor to them, that they might even have a hug factor to them, and that we can turn our lives around, it's pretty incredible what miracles can take place, right?
I mean, look at that guy's face in that picture, who truly thought that he could never be loved.
Well, vice versa,
Right?
It did.
How absurd that is for me today, how true it was for me in those moments. But it's stepping through each of those moments to get to where you want to be and not look at the whole grand scheme of it, right? Do one thing different in your relationship today to make it better tomorrow. Do one thing for yourself today so that you're a better tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the face you'll get out of it.
I love it. So as we start to round this up, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested, and when are you having your next experience?
So
your adventure in May?
Our next adventure therapy retreat is May 15th to the 22nd, 2020. And you can get a hold of us through our website, which is scottandnancykiesling.com, or through our Facebook page. You can always message us there. But our Facebook page has, our website has a contact page with all the information of different links or emails, phone, text, however you prefer to go about it.
Yeah, and our on our website, we also have a spot where you can sign up for Notes from Now, which is an inspirational little email that you get.
Once a week.
That we put out once a week.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I'm gonna have to do that. I want that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also you've got your show tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, tonight at 8:30 Eastern on Nancy's page.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Tonight we're going to be talking about what we bring into our relationships from the past and how that affects us. So if you want to chime in,
that's a good topic.
Get a little empowered there of what you might be hanging on to, and good or bad, bringing forward.
Because it can go either way, right?
Ways.
Oh, absolutely. So true. True.
Right?
True.
Bring amazing things, or you can bring things that aren't so amazing.
All right. So, is there any last words that you would like to share with everybody before we close?
I would just say again, smile at somebody, right? It's the simplest, kindest, most selfish thing that you can do. Yeah. Because you get out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And that person gets out of it. And what it may break in their state of consciousness, mm-hmm. It can really save somebody's life. And for those of you that do know my whole story, be the woman in the red dress and save somebody's life today.
My name just went cold. That's a good thing. Nancy?
I would say, stop waiting and take action on something that you want to do for yourself in the department of loving yourself to have the life that you want. So many people just say, oh, I don't need to right now, or they think putting other people first all the time is the answer, and it actually just breaks them down. So to tend to that self-love and stop waiting for some reason or something that's going to come into your life that never will. You have to just take action on that and then watch it ripple effect into every single area of your life and do everyone else a service by doing that for yourself.
Yeah, do something different today to have a different outcome.
Absolutely. So true. Well, as we close, day number 316 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate through service. Scott and Nancy Keesling. I can't even say thank you enough for being here with us today, because I don't know about you guys, but I have my soul is filled. I'm inspired. I am so filled with the love the two of you share for each other and for others, because it comes, it oozes out of your souls, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your messages of hope. I appreciate I love it. Elton John, one of my very favorites. El Patrick, thank you. As I'm closing right now, someone saved my life tonight, and The Woman in the Red Dress, another song. I love songs and movies. And Lady in Red. If you know the story, follow the Keeslings. I'm sure that you can go and you can find the story. It's inspirational. These two amazing individuals are inspirational. And if you've ever thought about going on an adventure, I can't think of any people that you'd want to go with than these two, because they know what they're doing in so many different ways. And I just want to say thank you for inspiring me, because you truly do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on.
Those kind words really mean a lot.
You're welcome. Everybody go out there and make an amazing day, and please do this. Smile. Smile. Take a moment and smile. And smile someone that you think might just bite your head off, because you know what? You may actually change their life. You may actually save their life tonight. Thank you. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.